Hello and welcome back. This is my February backyard garden tour in my ongoing series for 2021. So this is a pretty view because right now you're not going to have a pretty view. We're going to go down. I'm actually in the back garden and I am looking at a window that if I could x-ray vision right through it would go right through to my front door and directly out to the street where I started the last video, the one of the front yard 2 weeks ago. So our house is a ranch style. It's a large rectangle that runs north to south, and the yard emulates that shape. I'm just going to start from this angle so that I can capture more of the backyard this time, and we'll talk about each area. So this area by the window and fireplace has an old rose that's been here for as long as we've lived here. And I've recently cut it back very hard. It's actually fleshing out now. And it's a pink rose. I have found that if I don't feed it, I really like its color. If I feed it, it is a very intense pink. But if I don't feed it, it's more of a, I don't know, I think it's called a cameo pink, which I love. So I probably won't be feeding it this year. It blooms no matter. Everything is piled up here because we are in the midst of a lot of projects. And among those projects is a big tree trim. We're hiring some guys to come in that have done our trees before. They will be in here anytime now, so the next view of our backyard should look pretty different. Before I leave this area though and show you the trees, I wanted to point out we have a lot of bulbs. I've mentioned that before. These ones here may be paper whites, but I've also got what I think are calla lilies. I'm trying to remember because I haven't really paid attention. They come up and I forget what was there, but I think it's calla lilies. And then behind the bulbs, I planted a viburnum, and it's I want to say it's got pink flowers on it. It wasn't in flower when I bought it, so we'll see what it looks like. I'm also clearing a little area back there to put this rose. It's a yellow climbing rose, so I'm hoping to climb that up on the fireplace. I think that would look really pretty. Okay, restart it because I was getting a lot of reflection from the sun. So here's a better view of the trees. There's the lemon tree we were just near with the viburnum and rose in front of it. That's a Meyer lemon, yum. I normally prune that myself, but I'm going to let our guys do it this time because it's not a fun job. Lemon trees have a lot of thorns on them, and they're painful to prune. Behind it is a pittosporum that you can't really see, but it's nice and shady for our bedroom, which is that corner room. And then this monster with all the red berries on it is a California pepper gone wild. I don't even know if this was actually a specimen that had been planted here. All I know is it's taken over. It's very aggressive. It self-seeds and it sends up volunteers. So the arborists have trimmed it before. It looks really pretty when it's been maintained, and they'll open it up. It'll look really nice. So they're going to remove, excuse me, all the volunteers under there, much to my husband's chagrin because he likes the privacy that gives us, but it needs to be tidied, and then I'll have to stay on top of the volunteers when they come up. So that'll be a lot more open, and good or bad, it depends who you talk to in the family. We have a lot of volunteers coming around this corner too, but there's a big bird of paradise, and to the left of that, let me see, I'm gonna put my coffee down, see if I can zoom into that area. Oops, get my finger out of the way. Yeah. So next to the bird of paradise is a Nandina. And since we've lived here, really hated Nandinas because that one grows so aggressively. I guess I have found out that they're not all that way. So maybe I'm not going to write off Nandinas as a plant. Apparently I just don't have one that wants to stay small. We're not too fond of that bird of paradise. I always thought it was a banana, but it turns out it's a bird of paradise. It's a monster. It's very huge scale. It's very hard to trim it back artistically, especially for my husband. So it's got a lot of odd areas where we've cut it back, but I'm not going to spend any money to remove it. we're not in this house for the long run, so it's just going to be a matter of just trying to keep it manageable. More pepper volunteers here. That whole batch there, pepper. All our furniture's been moved. Our patio furniture's been moved here under this bottle brush tree because of the tree trimming that's coming along. So they're not working on the bottle brush tree, so that was a good spot to drop everything. But I am going to have them do the navel tree trimming because I was going to do it myself, but the orange trees. One's a navel, one's a Valencia. The navel's to the right, and it is kind of large, and I think that they could do a lot better job with it than I could. So, and then between the two orange trees, more pepper, because we just can't get away from California peppers. That whole area was cleared by these arborists, I don't know, about 10 years ago, and I had my garden, my original garden in that corner, but I was able to stay on top of the volunteers while I was gardening there. And then when life took over, well, they went amok. So you can see a lot of change here. We've dug up the turf, if you want to call it that. What we were using for grass, it shouldn't even qualify as a grass. It's just a horrible, obnoxious weed, but it's dug up. We got to get some people out here to haul it away. So some changes to what I'm going to do here. I think I previously mentioned that the arbor there is new, and I had planned to keep it where it was there as a passage from the, I guess you could call the side entry through the service area to where these trees meet, and we're going to set up a little dining area. But I've decided that I can do something else as the entry point, and I'm going to move the arbor right here. Let me see if my finger can show you. Right here where the lawn ends and we get into the gravel as an entryway from the yard. Originally, this is just a little historical Cindy's brain moment. I had envisioned dividing our yard, since it's so long, into 3 areas. This garden area that we're working on now. I was going to do some more hardscaping here. Had money and strength been with me. And then this is a shady part of the yard, so I was going to make that into more of a shady retreat. It's amazing to me that the only one that's going to happen was the one that seemed the least likely, which is the expansion of the garden over here. But I'm pretty excited about it. So I've cleared some of the wood that I was using to lift the pots so they could drain well. We are in the process of painting those pieces of wood because we're going to use them as edging to separate the gravel from the grass. Oh, there's my shadow. And then little by little, I've been moving all the pots and emptying them. I actually transplanted some fruit trees that have been in nursery pots and smaller pots into the largest of my former tomato growing plots. So this one here is a peach tree, as you can see from the little image. This is new. It's I want to say a Fuji apple, a dwarf, as is the peach. And then I have a Eureka lemon and a Mexican lime, and they're all dwarf trees, so they're intended to be in pots. This puppy here, this baby, is a fig, a brown turkey fig. I do not believe it is a dwarf. I am keeping it in a pot because I don't really have a spot in mind of where I want to put it. And I know they grow pretty aggressively, so we're going to try to keep it in the pot for a little while. So all this landscape fabric is going to come up, and we're, in addition to removing this grass here, we're going to see if there's any grass left underneath the fabric. And then we've got a job in terms of kind of leveling or grading this whole area. So this debris will all be removed, hauled away, and then we have to do some grading and integrate it with this pathway that was part of the original garden. And then we will have we'll order and have delivered gravel. I don't know how much of that can happen by next month. Wouldn't it be great if I did next month's video and it was all done? But I don't know. I just feel like that's a pretty big job. Even though we're going to hire some of it out, I don't know how much can be done feasibly. So this pepper, now that I'm a little closer, is going to be trimmed up, and I think I'm having one large limb removed, but mainly they're opening it up. I had hung, I don't know if I showed it previously, but I had hung a old chandelier from this branch here, and it hangs over where the patio table will sit, and it looks pretty cool. I want to get some remote control operated battery candles so that we can light the area in the evening. But I will have to dismantle my 2 cinder block herb gardens here, and I'm thinking maybe those will become the entry point as you walk in from our back gate into this area that I'm standing in. So everything's a little bit more than a little bit in a mess, but it's not the same mess it was at the time of my last video, so you can see that we're making progress. We've got herbs coming back, and I'm gonna have to home these because if I'm taking these cinder blocks off, they're gonna need somewhere to live. I've got all the drip redone since the last video in this bed. I believe I started it. I have to re-examine. I may have finished it in the other 2 beds as well. However, I need to extend for pots. These pots that are at the end of the beds are going to be changing up. I really like those square ones that I'm zooming in on. Those have hot peppers in them, and I would really like to put more hot peppers out here. So I think I'm going to move all these berries and do 3 more pots here where the little blue duck is, and do 3 more hot peppers. And then the big gold pot has a raspberry plant in it, and the rectangular black plastic pot has blueberries. So I'm going to figure out where I'm going to home those. And then all these peas are just taking off. They're kind of blowing my mind. I've never planted peas at the right time, and I've been able to enjoy peas in the past, but not to the degree that I'm enjoying them this time. They're so prolific, and they're so strong, and they don't, with a few exceptions, they don't show any sign of dying. There's a few little dead ones down there, but so I'm super happy about that. I need to be more on the ball and get my winter vegetables in, or cool weather vegetables into the ground earlier in future years, because it really pays off. I'm gonna show you something kind of weird, I guess. By the way, I have carrots and beets growing in here. No, not beets, radishes. Got to finish thinning my carrots. So there's a stick, a little wooden stick just sticking up there, and you'll see 2 more little sticks over here. And what those are there for is to help me visualize where I'm going to put some additional arbors that I've been able to put my hands on. You know, I love a good bargain. So I've been hunting OfferUp for arches and or arbors. I found 2 that maybe, they may be the height of this one or a little less, but they're not as intricate. They don't have the lattice work on the sides. They're plainer, and they're also not as deep. So I'm going to be putting 2 front to back here from the wall, where the stick over there is to the white stick over here. So if you can envision 2 large trellises, and then where the other stick, the green one, is over here. No, I'm sorry, I am blind. This one goes to a brown one here, and then there's a white one that's going to go to a little bamboo stick that you can kind of see right there. So 2 more over there. So I'm going to really increase my gardening space with the ability to grow vertically, as well as adding additional beds. So I'm super excited about that, and it's going to look really pretty on top of that. So here's some more stuff that is just out of the way during the tree trimming. And just to address what's going to happen with this patio furniture, this storage furniture, we have this tall cabinet that we store folding chairs in, and next to it, it's a Rubbermaid, I believe, and next to it is a Rubbermaid chest bench, which I believe was storing our cushions for our outdoor furniture. And since we're opening up this area, I really don't want to block it off with this big bulky furniture. So what's going to happen is I thought I was going to be able to move this onto the ground area down there, but it apparently is too tall because of this little overhang roof, which is an important part of our patio because it keeps rain from going into that covered patio, and we use it for storage, so we do want to keep the rain out. So I think instead that this Rubbermaid cabinet simply will turn so that it's backed up against this wall. It'll be a little wider than that length of wall, so it'll kind of cover this sliding glass door slightly, but not a lot, and that will free up some space. And then the bench I will be able to put down under there, so it'll still be side by side. They'll actually be the same relationship to each other. They'll just both flip so that they will open up this area, and then beds will actually butt up right against the cement of this of this patio. But I've got this little fence, this funky little metal fence that I used to have out by the gate from the front yard to the back. I'm thinking of seeing whether that'll look good between the cement and the beds, and it would give me a little bit of support for plants as well. We'll see. I don't know. And then here, here's a quick view of some of the painting that's going on. Obviously, I've still got more to do, but so I've moved back now. And speaking of beds, at the time I made the last video, I talked about a plan that we had to do 4 beds that would be 3 feet wide by 6 feet long, and they would be in this area that I'm showing right now. But in my travels through OfferUp, I ran across a deal on corrugated metal beds. You can see the back of some of them right here, these green pieces of metal that you see. And then down here I've also got some kind of a gunmetal colored. So it was a deal I couldn't pass up. However, they're not exactly the same dimensions as the beds I had been planning on. In addition, the green ones are slightly different dimensions than the gunmetal ones, but I think they're going to work out just fine. I worked with my grid paper and some little cutouts of the size of the beds and played around till I got a layout that I think is going to work really great. We'll have to still build one bed, I believe. And the green ones, I wasn't too happy that they were going to stand out because, well, they're bright green. So I painted those black. Now you can't tell because the green side is the side that we're looking at. We had some rain coming, and I just thought, why not protect the part I painted? Although they're meant to be in the rain, so I guess that doesn't really matter. But I think the black and the gunmetal will just kind of blend into each other. And then the beds, the wooden beds that we already have out here are so distressed due to age and time. The wood's very dark. I don't think that they'll clash terribly much, although I would eventually like to paint the outsides black or a very dark gray. So, and the new bed, if we build one, a wooden one, we'll want to probably paint that to match. So it may be hard to envision all of this, but that is the plan, and I've got it kind of mapped out in my mind and on paper, and hopefully we'll progress quite a lot between the recording of this video and the next backyard tour, which is going to be in about a month. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to point out. Oh, so here's one of the other square planters, and then the other 2, I've just picked them up recently, but look what a good table they make. My seedlings are all doing great. All my tomatoes have come up. I have a lot of herbs growing out here, and I have a lot of seedlings that are growing inside of my greenhouse. As you can see, I have some empty trays because there's things I did not want to plant too early because it's I wasn't sure what the timing of the beds would be, and it can be very overwhelming if the plants start begging to be released from the confines of their little nursery pots and there's nowhere to put them. As you can see, I've already got some that really do need to be moving on, and I think I'm going to be able to share some of these with my gardening class members. We have a meetup next weekend, and I will be sharing some seedlings. And then for now, I'll probably be putting some of them into these beds just to try to enjoy them before we do all the switching over. I do still need to sow my my cucumbers and my squashes. I haven't done any of those. This weekend I will be direct sowing sunflowers, and then I'll also be starting some seeds in cells of zinnias and cosmos. So this area, this wall area where all the furniture is piled up, I'm going to put sunflowers and just try to use that area. It gets quite a lot of sun, so I think it should work pretty good. And I'm gonna try succession sowing those so that I'll have a lot of sunflowers at different times of the year, because I would like to start cutting them too. This year I'm going to grow a lot of varieties I've never grown before, including a lot of hybrids that are really meant to be used as cut flowers. And I'm going to also, I probably could have mentioned this when I was over here earlier, but I'm also planning to grow some sunflowers and cutting flowers back here. What I'd really like to do, and I just get tired even thinking of it, because this grass, I shouldn't call it grass. It's not grass. It's an excuse for grass. But it is so hard to dig up. And I would really like to make this whole area a gracefully curved bed. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to grow anything much that needs sun over here because the trees just give me too much shade. But this area from the lemon tree over to where the barbecue is, I could do a pretty large curve and do a lot of cutting flowers here, and that's really what I would like to do. So we'll see if that is something I can make happen. It is not a priority simply because this stuff's all more important. And I don't want to give up a lot of my bed space to flowers. I do plan to put some flowers in my beds, but the reason for expanding the beds really was to be able to grow things that I just never can because there's not enough time. For instance, I'm going to be adding corn to my garden this year. I'm super excited about that. I'm also hoping to grow melons successfully. I've tried to grow them for the last 2 years, I should say. I did get one watermelon last year, but I've grown them in this bed here, the long bed, because of lack of space, I guess. That seemed like the most logical place. The other 2 beds are always taken up with squash, tomatoes, and cucumbers. And so the melons, they have a hard time because this area starts getting shade sooner than the other 2 beds due to the trees to the west. Therefore, I could have moved the melons, but they weren't as big, of a priority for me. And the tomatoes are number 1, just to clear that up. Tomatoes are my thing. And the cucumbers are a close second, and squash 3rd place. So everything that grew over here was stuff that, was able either to take the shade or that was less important to me. For example, I use this bed for my beans. I think the beans can handle some of the shade. And I grew flowers here as well. Again, these were things that were less important to me. So now with the ability to grow up over arches, a la Roots and Refuge, I love how they've got those beautiful arched raised beds. Man, I love those. So I'm thinking I can grow beans over these arches, or cucumbers, maybe squash, even the tomatoes. I think if I put a tomato in this last bed here, it certainly will be benefited by having the arch to stake it to. So I know the first year that I grew tomatoes, they grew impressively tall, much taller than I anticipated. I had no idea indeterminates grew that tall. Okay, I've talked way too long. I'm gonna call it a day. Let me just take one more last, I'm lying. I'm not gonna call it a day yet. I'm gonna take one little tiny walk down this area. It's messy because, like I said last time, it gets messy. I forgot I did have a few more things to talk about. Been working on my painting projects, so those have been coming along good. I actually didn't stop to show you, but you'll have to trust me. Painting is going well. I also got some grow bags for growing potatoes. So this is a new thing for me. I've not grown potatoes before. Well, I've grown sweet potatoes, but unintentionally. And my baker's rack is still turning out to be a great investment. I've been using it, you know, we've had rain again and we're going to have rain again, so it's got plastic on it still. But there's a bag of sawdust down there too. Oh, I've primed some birdhouses. That's another thing I'm working on painting. And I've added these cute little native plants, California natives, that I'm hoping to train into little topiaries, a la Linda Vodder, who is a YouTuber that I follow and really enjoy her feed. And she's got an excellent approach. She's always saying that we shouldn't let our plants boss us around, and she's just so brave. Well, she knows a lot more about gardening than I do, but she often turns plants into topiaries, plants that I wouldn't think of. So when I went to the nursery, I just saw these cute little native plants, and I thought they seem like they would work well as topiary plants. In fact, one of them almost reminds me of a rosemary, the one on the right there. It's not a rosemary. And they all, one of them, let's see, two of them are single stemmed kind of plants. The other one, I think the middle one, I'm trying to remember, I think the middle one's not. But I just feel like if I can make them into this kind of shape, the lollipop shape, that they would look so cute. These pots were all bought independently of each other. In fact, I just realized when I potted them up that they're not the same size. The one on the right's a little taller. But I just thought they were so cute, and I put them into this little distressed iron holder that I bought at an estate sale. And I want those to grow up and be lollipops. I think they'll be happy about that. Strawberries looking good. Those will soon be finally hooked up to the drip, because once the new beds are all in place, I will get the drip all going in the directions it needs to go. I don't know if I mentioned, I got some of those lovely Dollar Tree stacking pots. They're not the same quality as these black ones, but they will do the job. Hello, Mini Acres Farms. I know you got a whole case of these. I think I've got 5 of them. I had my husband poke a hole down the middle because I'm going to run drip through these too. And I plan to load that up with basil. I have a lot of different types of basil growing this year, and I just feel like that'll be an awesome thing. I don't think that was my idea, but I can't remember who suggested it. It's a great idea though, a basil tower. And here's my little kitty who loves to eat fountain grass. Did you get your fill of purple fountain grass this morning? Huh? You filthy animals. Okay, I guess we're ending it on a prettier note than I thought. My beautiful kitty, Cleopatra. Hey Cleo, are you camera shy? Say hello to the folks. Weirdo. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to watch more of my videos, you can always subscribe. And I appreciate you. Have a great day.